Welcome back to the farm, everyone. It's been a few days since we got the inch of rain and the ground's surprisingly drying quickly, although it has been a little bit on the chilly side. I'm going to work, pups, so stay out of trouble. Maybe do something useful, pick up some sticks, mow the yard while I'm gone. That'd be nice. It's just been one of those planting seasons so far where every time we're about a day away from being able to just unleash the beast, put the hammer down, work and plant almost everything, we get a rain that puts us out of the field, and then we get closer to drying again, and it's rinse, wash, repeat. It keeps happening. It's mid to late April, not too concerned about the timing yet. I'd like to have more beans in than we do to be maximizing our vegetative growth. The hardest part about farming and making the right choices is we can only deal with the hand we're dealt. We can play those cards how it's fit for the year, and not too concerned, but I think we'll have some progress here in the next couple weeks, maybe even today. Are those bald eagles or herons? I would say upon further inspection, those are herons. I was really excited. I was like, oh yeah, 2 bald eagles to start today. That's a good sign. Nope, just the underwhelming heron. I'm pretty much ready to start digging out here in this wet hole to try and figure out what's going on with the tile, the water standing. Just waiting on the Julie or the locate request to come back because there's 4 pipelines out in that field I told you earlier. Should be clear, but want to get the green light from the natural gas pipelines in particular. Make sure I don't crack one of those open and erase myself from this earth when I'm working on that project. I drove around a little bit. We have a lot of fields that are really close today. Maybe after a few hours they might go. We'll check them then. Jeff thought it'd be a good idea to go ahead and grab these field cultivators, do a little sweep maintenance, so that's what I'm gonna get started on. From 40 foot away, those sweeps actually don't look that bad. May have a few on a certain row or area where we'll change. A lot of times the ones that wear the quickest are behind the tractor by the wheels. That ground gets a little harder from that top compaction. And then sometimes the outside ones get a little worn out because they run up against the edge of fields and work up all sorts of junk. Just gonna get that unfolded. I was topping off the fuel on the first one. We'll look at both field cultivators. It's a good sign because it's warming up in a hurry. Already had to ditch the stocking cap, and this sweatshirt won't last long. Need a little more rock down on this place. Looking at this field cultivator that's seen marginally less acres than the other one, I don't see a ton of points that I change. Maybe one of these on the outside, see how worn down it is. Back row's got some that you might change because they're getting a little low. That one's okay. I just don't know how many acres you're gonna get out of it before it needs replaced. These points aren't cheap, and you kind of have to make a decision of, do you change them and increase the quality of work, or is it still doing a good enough job and has enough lifespan to not justify spending the money or not getting enough money out of the old one before you replace it? Here's a field cultivator Jeff pulls. He's got more horsepower in front. He usually does more tillage. He gets an earlier start on the day, and he's usually the guy we send to scout fields to start everything off. You're gonna replace that one. You see it's worn out. Just a matter of time before that disappears. Same with that one, and then you got all sorts of them behind here that look pretty good. So you'll leave a lot of those, but these ones with the visible evidence of cracking, and even that one I'm kind of surprised about, there's a little hairline in it, you're gonna change them. I'm impressed that that is that worn. Look at that. It's hollow through the middle where it's worn out. This one surprises me. I can't believe with that much point life on it that the main trunk wore out. Some of these last longer than they should, and others last less time than they should, and I really don't know why. Yeah, I think we're gonna change that one. The whole point's missing. The wear life of the sweeps are determined by multiple factors. One of the primary ones obviously is acres, but not just the acres, the type of acre. So sandier soils, more coarse soils, I believe, wear things like that faster. Finer soils aren't as hard on them, so they last longer. Some of the lighter soils we've worked the last few days probably have eaten some of those up a little bit. I think that if you can get 1,000 to 1,500, maybe 2,000 acres on a set, that's pretty good. We don't change them as a blank slate. We change them as needed. We don't just put a whole new set on. We just every time we get an opportunity, we knock some off that are worn off, and then just keep repeating throughout the season across the field cultivator. Just taking advantage of our extra time this morning to get the tanker out of the shed. I think the frost risks are behind us for the season. Getting it outside, staged, and ready to hit the ground running hard this week if we miss a shower or two. And it's just massively in the way right there. I'm just going to put this somewhere out of the way, seeing as we've already got a lot of things in the way. That looks like it'll do. Sounds like Jeff started changing sweeps already. Dad and I are on a scouting trip. We did find one neighbor working ground.
What beans go over here?
Pioneer 31, a 3-1 Pioneer. Seems like the further west we go, the more tractors we're seeing. And a lot of them are actually working ground, which is a pretty good sign. Over here, a couple miles west of Windsor, 200 acres, black dirt, a little bit swampy. Hoping that maybe they didn't get as much rain as we did at home and we can work some corn stalks, but I don't know. A little wet underneath.
That's a lot wet. What do you think?
It's close, isn't it? That sure is close.
That right there, not go a couple inches deep with it.
Dad and I have made a pretty extensive lap around the countryside, our farming area, and it's just the same pattern we've seen the last few weeks off and on. A lot of fields that are really close, just need another day or two of drying. They're just not there yet. We're somewhat confident that once the field cultivator gets over that 200 acre farm we checked a little bit ago, that we will be able to plant some beans at least today. So we're gonna go ahead and get this out to the fuel tank, top it off. Really, it just comes down to how sporadic the last rain was. Some places had 7/10, other places we farm had 1.25 inches, and that half-inch difference can really be a big factor for whether or not you can plant one day or the next day or 2 days later versus everything else. The frustrating part of like the field we're gonna go work here shortly is that it really needs a little time to dry before the field cultivators even hit it. And by the time the field cultivators hit it, if it even is going to work, probably gonna need a little time to dry before it's planted. So it's hard to be in a hurry. And that's what stinks about getting rained out and then waiting these periods for it to dry, is that it's not usually ready at 7 o'clock in the morning where you can just sprint after it. It may not be ready till 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon. As much as you'd like to just conquer the day first thing, Mother Nature just doesn't really allow that early on. We have a 3-4 Pioneer bean in the tank right now. This field is planned to go into a shorter season 3-1 bean. So there's not a bunch of late maturing beans or not ready to harvest beans early. We're gonna dump the leftover 3-4s out of the tank. We're gonna do that over where that 9620 is. Dad's gonna move it first. This planter is a lot easier to dump unfolded. Move to the right field while I wait on him. Windsor will walk in girls. Last time we were planting, it was those 34 A73s. Now we're doing Pioneer 31 A73E. 3-1 enlist soybean. We had these last year. Already exists. Round. Okay. Set on the field, got the beans in. Now we just need to run and get seed and get over there and everything else. Jeff just left with the field cultivator, headed west to Windsor. Probably take him every bit of 30 minutes to go over there and even give us an idea if it's going to work. If it is, Katie's on call. She's going to run the other field cultivator over there, and they're going to double up just because might as well get it worked as quickly as possible so I don't have to plant till midnight. I was torn between greasing the planter or going home and taking a nap while we waited on Jeff's green light. And trust me, the nap option almost won. Don't say I never greased this thing. It's already been greased twice and it's only had 300 acres on it. It appears that Jeff just pulled into the field over at Windsor, so we should know within the next 5 minutes or so if it's going to work or not. Jeff, do you copy? How's it looking over there? I don't know if I've got the range with this terrain and obstructions to reach him.
Too bad, I'm just scratching it. I made my first run. I think it's gonna work. It's pretty dusty.
Alright, copy that. I'm going to send Katie over too so we can get it done at a reasonable hour.
Yeah, I'm just running it too right now. Just scratching and trying to level it up for you.
Yeah, as long as you're getting the weeds. How did you look at Glenora on the way by? It looked fairly close, a little wet still.
I'd say it's close approach to planting.
Jeff gave us the thumbs up. Just talked to Katie. She's going to come get in her steed. We're going to be planting some beans this afternoon. Like I said, not as early as I'd like to start, but you can't start any earlier than the ground's dry. There goes Katie. Chris and I have just been taking our sweet time, moseying on up here to the Pioneer dealer to get 240 units of those 31 A73s. Bruce and Wes have a pretty slick setup here. They keep their highest demand, highest quantity ordered soybeans untreated out in bulk tanks outside. And then when the farmer's ready for them, they just bring their seed tender in like we're doing right here. They weigh them into the system, and then their treater disperses all the chemicals, the insecticide, the fungicide, the seed treatments, SDS treatments to protect the soybeans. Load them up, and then we'll take them to the field. This is super useful if you're using like a biological type product because you really need it to be treated close to planting season or planting time. You can't treat them super far in advance. And there's even something to be said about some of the other treatments being a little caustic on the seed. I don't know definitively if that's true or not, but delaying coating that seed with the treatments until right at planting time could help with your germination percentage. 240 units of soybeans is a pretty large load for our seed tender. That's why you see Wes up there. He was diverting the flow. We've kind of got to scoot it around to get it all to fit. Got the front half done. He's going to do the back half, and then we're going to head back home. Looks like both field cultivators are over there in Windsor, so they should have a little bit work for me by the time I get over there. Jeff, I'm just about to leave your house, so might start wrapping up that first field if you haven't. This is about 7-8 miles west of home. A lot of tractors going. We checked our fields here this morning. They are a tad bit on the heavy side. I don't know if when the field cultivators come back through, if we can have them try to work these corn stalks. I'm not opposed to putting in a late night to get a little more done today. We're here. Like a well-oiled machine. Doesn't hurt to pretend sometimes that we're this smooth. We're normally not.
Open that.
Yeah, you probably don't have to get over that far. Full tank of Pioneer 31A73s, 3-1 bean, should harvest earlier compared to everything else. Loaded up, we're gonna hit the ground running. It's been a about 3 weeks since we've had the planter out, so we ought to check and see how we're planting. I backed it out a notch before I even started planting here, just because I didn't want them super deep. Ground's a hair on the chunky side. It probably could have used another day, I don't know. Looks like we're about inch and a quarter in the ground. Yeah, inch and a quarter. I'm happy with that. Rain in the forecast. Maybe I add another 20 pounds of downforce or something and we call it good. I changed my mind on the weight of the tractor. I am going to give it another 20 pounds of downforce to kind of push through the clods a little bit. I'm erring on the side of caution. I do want them all to at least have some cover on them, so I'm going to drop them a half hole deeper. There is an actual measurement for each adjustment on the planter. I just have no idea what it is. Obviously over in big rock country, you don't find a lot of rocks over here, but when you find one, they're pretty big. We're just gonna plant around that spot right there. It's always wet here, I don't know why. Just wrapped up the end pass on the north 85 acres. My analysis is that I have seen much better seed beds and I have seen far worse seed beds. This black dirt really needs a subsurface tile system. It's not something we have out here. Probably could have used another day of drying at a minimum. We worked it. We got the planter here, so we're gonna plant it. Not a big deal. Soybeans are ornery little gremlins. They seem to not care as much about planting conditions. Not that this is terrible by any means. There's just a few heavy spots. The field cultivators have a good enough head start that should be no chance I catch them. I've completely underestimated the ground covering capacity of the two field cultivators. I thought they were just working a partial section of the ends. They're wrapping that south 120 acres up right now, so they're going to be on the greener pastures here shortly. We can even find any other dry dirt. I would think the two east fields at Glenora would definitely work, but I don't know about that black dirt on the west field. It'd be nice to get it all worked and planted, but I don't even think there's any chance it's dry. You might as well try it though, Jeff.
You get the light ground work, then I'll check and see.
There goes Katie leading the way home. Maybe they'll find me some more dry dirt to plant tonight. Doubt it. I can hope though. Whoa. The first 85 acres is done. Pretty easy planting over there. Ground conditions could have been a little bit better. Topping off both tanks one more time, then we'll have to do a small fill after another 30 or 40 acres to get the rest off the tinder and Chris can go home. Haven't been too chatty, to be honest with you. I don't feel very good. I feel like I could throw up at any point in time, and it's not really encouraging me to film anything. The good news is in the planter tractor, you're more of a supervisor than an operator. You just gotta turn on the ends. This field's a little bit more than 120 acres. Let's see if we can get it knocked out without vomiting. I'm not saying we started something over in this little section of earth. There are a lot of field cultivators running around us now, and we were the first ones here, but there were people around this area in the county before we got over here, so I think the ground's just getting dry. And
But anywhere else?
Did that black dirt end up working or too wet, Jeff?
Supposed to go over there, so Kate went and worked part of it. That's what I'm saying. But no, I went over there and worked a little bit of it, but that north end's too wet.
With the rest of the field plant?
Yeah, everything I work with, yes.
That's how you know it's time for more tile. Always waiting on spots in the field. I ought to just be putting in tile.
Probably.
This DB60 just eats through the soybean acres. It's a treat to run. Haven't had any issues this field. No plugging, nothing. Use plenty of talc, which helps. I'm probably going to top off with seed on the next round and send Chris home. Chris, I'll probably get that seed tinder empty here on the next round. There's not very much left in there. Maybe 10 units. We didn't have that many beams left on tinder. Got some bags just in case we need extras. Should be good to finish this last 60. Unfortunately, we're still struggling to find dry dirt. We need another day of drying at the least, and they're calling for rain tomorrow midday, so that will reset us again. The good news is I am feeling much better than I was earlier. Probably shouldn't have had that food market pork chop for lunch. That was a gamble I'm not going to make again. This is the one spot of the field, other than that wet corner that I just planted around, that concerns me, because the field's a tad bit on the wet side, and I don't know what this tractor and planter is capable of. Oh, there's moisture. Oh, it'll be a miracle if those rows even close. It'll be a supreme miracle if those beans even come up. That could have used another day there, or 2 or 5. I totally just got done doing exclusively important stuff. No, I wasn't on Twitter or watching TikToks. I didn't do any of that. I will admit, I did watch Eric Snodgrass's weather report for this week. He's Nutrien's chief meteorologist, atmospheric scientist, I don't know the appropriate term. I think Eric actually might be independent, but also under the umbrella of Nutrien, probably some kind of contract work. I've got no idea. Anyways, he's forecasting in the next 7 days in our area here in central Illinois, 1/2 to 1 inch of rain, maybe more like 1/4 to 3/4. We're looking to warm up here in the next 4 or 5 days back into the 80s, which is tremendous for drying. A small amount of rain like that really would get sucked up pretty quick if it warmed back up. So I'm confident we're going to get a good window to run hard. We're still just kind of pitter-pattering around, planting isolated fields here and there. Got about 8 acres left. I think my seed tanks weren't filled level, so probably gonna have to do some shuffling here shortly. Seed tank 2 gave me a low seed warning. I would imagine that I will drop pop here sometime shortly and have to get out and do some shuffling. The only downside to the grates I put in the bottom of the tank to catch debris is I had to raise the seed level sensors that alert you when your tank is low. They went off a round ago, which is probably 5 or 6 acres now on one side. The other side hasn't gone off yet. The positive note is that because I have less than 6 acres to plant and I have 6 bags of beans sitting on the back, even if my tanks were empty right now, I could probably finish the field without having someone bring me beans. That's why we keep extra bags if we need to. Usually once it says it's not planting, it's not planting. A shade less than 5 acres left, so roughly speaking, I need about 3 bags on each side to finish without getting back here again. Okay, there's our empty one. Wow, you guys really messed up the measurement on that one. After about 5 minutes or so, got them leveled out with my trusty spare empty soybean bag. I found the best thing, other than using a shop vac, which some of you have suggested I've never tried, I need to figure that out, is if you have an empty bag and you have a lot to move, you just come around and pop the bottom chute open. It's about the easiest way to do it, because climbing into those when they're that low is not fun. I would be surprised if we didn't have to tap into one of those extra bags based on my eyeball assessment of the bean level. Okay, had to toss one of those bags in. I think we technically probably had enough, but I didn't want to screw with it. Time to head home. Clocking in just over 4 hours in the field for 206-ish acres. When you include my time getting out to take leaks and move seed around, and I loaded a couple times in there as well, that's not bad work. According to Jeff, there's also a chance of rain overnight tonight, so I got these seed bags on the back. It's easier to just pull the planter back in the shed than to unload them. Oh wow, I've got free range in here right now. So much room for activities. I'm planning on doing some spraying first thing tomorrow if it doesn't rain like Jeff's saying. And I don't know that we're gonna have a whole lot more that'll even plant, so I'll just check in with you first thing. We're up bright and early this morning, headed west. We've got 200 acres to spray, and then I've got another 40 back closer to home that we worked before the last storm. I'm gonna try to get that sprayed and then planted this morning. I'm a little surprised. It doesn't look like a single bit of moisture worked its way up overnight, which means the ground is going to start drier today because none of that moisture wicked up. Could mean we're going to get an earlier start. I'm going to have Dad load some seed up for me in the seed tender and plant beans, and I may have him check a few fields so we can get some stuff done. Calling for rain this weekend. it'll be May if we get rained out on the weekend here, so might as well put some beans in, even if it's a little bit on the wet side. About 90 acres in, the left half of my boom is just not spraying worth a crap out here. I couldn't think of what would be causing that. I guess I'm a little rusty, and the John Deere mechanic Colton said check my left strainer. I should have known. I learned that last year. I didn't think I really sprayed anything that would cause an issue with that. Yes, I'm gonna use a pipe wrench. Sorry if that bothers you. If it won't even go out the bottom tube, that's a good sign that it was at least partially plugged. Where in the world did that come from? Not horrible, but not great. And the bad part is I've not filled up my rinse tank, which is the water I usually use to clean this. So maybe I can knock a little bit of it off. So dumb. I can't believe I called the mechanic. I knew that. Half the boom had to have been a boom strainer. Why did I? Silly. This shouldn't be surprising. I'm running behind schedule. Not that I really had an itinerary. Looks like the neighbors are out spraying as well, so maybe they're going to try to plant their field today. Already a few planters running here in Windsor. Chance of rain this afternoon, so I think people are going to try to jam in what they can. Right at 2 hours on the dot to spray 206 acres. That's okay time. I was hoping to get done about 20 to 30 minutes ago. I spent probably 20 minutes messing around trying to figure out the boom issue. Just so silly that the strainer slipped my mind, but it was the obvious thing to check. I just thought since I wasn't spraying atrazine, those couldn't get plugged, but maybe there's some old atrazine that got knocked loose or something. I don't know. I'm headed back home. I'm gonna go spray one more field. Dad's supposed to be checking some fields for me. Maybe we can find some more corn stalks to work. Hopefully, just not holding my breath on that one. Slight change of plan. I'm gonna prioritize getting this field planted first before I spray it, just in case the rain brews up. No reason to spray a field that's not planted if you're not gonna get it planted soon. Jeff just left with his field cultivator to go somewhere. One of them is parked right now. And Dad just left with the vertical till headed east. I have no idea what he's up to. He didn't really communicate that. We have a few fields that are a little bit on the hairy side, a lot of biomass from weed growth. He may try to chew them up with the vertical till real quick, see how it does. I probably shouldn't have taken a breath of that. These are Don Mario 3756E, tried and true 3.7 bean from Don Mario and List, obviously. We've been planting these for 3 or 4 years now, and they've been solid, even on some of our more marginal acres. Farm we're going to is it's not super productive, but it's not really marginal. Should have good yields as long as we get rain. I'm ashamed to admit it, but I came to this field without even checking it, making an assumption that I didn't have actual evidence on. We're here, we're seeded up, we are unfolded, it's getting planted. I definitely was not anticipating a spot like this. Interesting. If the field we planted yesterday could have used 2 days of drying, this one probably needed another 3 or 4. It's firm. I'm not really making ruts other than that drainage issue in the corner. That's not a field condition thing. That's more of a water's not leaving there and it'll be wet even when the rest of the field's ready to plant. The most important thing when the field's a tad bit on the tacky side is to make sure you're at least closing your seed trenches. That's arguably the most important part. Yeah, for the most part it looks like we are. It is tacky. Beans aren't going in as far as I'd like them to. I may need to run the down pressure up a hair since this ground's had some rain on it. Since it was worked, gets a little more firm. Feels pretty loose where the gauge wheels are running. Really no different than where they're not running. There are inevitably going to be some spots that aren't going to look great. That's just par for the course when you're out here a day or two early. Probably could have hit it with the field cultivator again, just didn't think we needed to because the weeds look like they've been controlled. Couple slots open. I think just bumping the downforce up might fix that. The neighbor to the south looks like he's gearing up to plant some corn. Soybean stubble, which he just worked today, does tend to dry out quicker than corn stalks. And like I said, he worked it, so that kind of speeds it up a little bit too. His looks a little better than ours. And that guy's a good farmer, so I know that he wouldn't be out there if it wasn't in the right shape. I heard our Pioneer dealer, Bruce Daly, say the other day that it's never good practice to plant beans in a position, condition, shape, whatever you want to say, that are going to need a rain after you leave the field. Now, with that being said, these beans are probably going to need a rain. I mean, it doesn't have to be when I pull out of the field. They'll need a ½ inch to an inch that they're calling for this weekend, so it shouldn't be an issue. Seed trenches are, yeah, they're okay. They're all covered with soil, but there's some open slots. Soybeans, a lot of time, if they get a rain, will just grow right out of that, no big deal. I've seen better seed beds. It's important to keep in mind that the earlier you get out to plant them the first time, the quicker you can get to them the second time to replant them if you have to. And trust me, we are no strangers to replanting soybeans. We normally plant in better conditions than this. Looks like Jeff moved to our Lake Road farm southwest of Mattoon. I'm over here planting. Maybe he found me some corn stalks to plant. How's that looking up there on the Lake Road, Jeff?
Waiting on the planter.
Does it look pretty good?
Except it's so strong like winter.
When you work a field like this and then get a hard inch of rain on it, what happens is the rain kind of seals it back over and packs it down. More water runs off of the surface. However, the moisture underneath is usually slower to dry out. If we brought the field cultivator back over here today and worked this, it would plant better because that top inch or 2 inches would be powdered up a little more than it is right now. It's kind of crusty, and that's the reason some of these seed trenches aren't sealing as well. There's just too much moisture holding the clay matter or the clay soil stuff in here together, not allowing it to seal very well. Look at that. We just finished a whole field without running out of seed. Beautiful. That one's done. Now I will take a rain this weekend. Will you take the green seed tender up to Wes's to get some seed beans?
Okay, you already called him?
Yep, I just talked to him.
Okay, I'll go right now.
Okay, see ya.
And that's going to the Lake Road?
Yep, going to the Lake Road.
Okay, I'll just come down the highway then.
Yeah, that's fine.
I'll get there, all right.
All right, see ya. Chris is en route to get us some beans from Bruce and Wes at Pioneer with the seed tender. We're gonna go hang out at that farm. We are gonna be going from a 3.7 to a 3.4/3.5. Gonna split the planter because we're going longer season to shorter season. I will go ahead and dump the units before I load. Should only be a couple bags at most. I don't normally have a reason to come straight up 45 and cut across to the northwest right in front of Alliance. They're gonna think I'm here because I'm broke down or something. Nope, just strolling through, don't mind me. There's Jeff working on the north end of the field. There's not a bit of tillage going on around here, especially on corn stalks. It's never really a good sign or vote of confidence when you're the only one out working stocks. So we may be a little bit on the heavy side here too without even looking. It really doesn't look that bad, Jeff. We still need to dump the 3.7 Don Marios out of here, the couple extra units, and then load. This field, we got a special little trial we're gonna do. We're planting a ton of these Pioneer 34A98 Enlist soybeans on our farm this year. Next season, Pioneer's moving to the next generation of their seed beans. They're calling the Z series. And we have a couple of fields that we're going to be able to split the planter with Z-Series soybeans. So in this one, we're going to have the older 3.4 versus the new 3.5 Z-Series bean. I'm just assuming that's what side it's going to be on. Who knows? When we get the planter filled, I may have to switch these. But the planter will map as it goes where it plants the 3.5 Z-Series and the 3.4 A-Series. I was waiting on Jeff to get that in work so I could back over it and have a work spot that I could shut the tractor off in. He's about done anyways. Dad doesn't think much of our stubble looks dry enough to plant, and after that first field I planted of corn stalks, I would tend to agree now. He's going to bring some loose empty bags. We're going to dump the tanks, and then Chris is going to bring the seed tender with the Z-Series and A-Series beans in them. We got our beans emptied, about 3 extra units. Talked to Dad, Jeff. Just gonna take the field cultivator in home for now, and we're gonna go look at fields. Like I said numerous times this video, there's nothing quite dry enough. Even some of the stuff we're actually working probably isn't technically perfect. They're calling for rain early this afternoon, on top of the fact that we don't even really have good drying weather right now. Sun's behind the clouds, and it's just kind of a damp 50 degrees right now. I'm just lollygagging, waiting on Chris to show up with beans. He should be here soon. The seed dealer's, I don't know, 2 miles northwest. Jeff got 100 yards down the road and saw Chris coming with the seed tender, so he's backing out of the way. Sometimes it's just for the best to stay out of Chris's way. Ready to plant! These are the 34A98. The Z-Series beans are in the other hopper. Okay, this is actually planted really nicely. I wish that first field today wouldn't have looked as poor as it did, because this is pretty good. The real difference maker here is this is black dirt. It heats up quicker. Even though it likes to hold on to water, once the sun gets on it, it dries out nicely. And of course, we got the field cultivator out here 2 hours ahead. That kind of powdered up the top for me, and the planter's doing a nice job closing the trench. I think. I haven't looked. Looks like it is. Okay, since Dad doesn't have any stubble that's going to plant, and I'd like to do some spraying on the last field I planted in this one, we're going to do a little switcheroo. Dad's going to run the bean planter, and we're going to go spray at least the 40. I don't know if we'll get to this 80 or not. Dad planted a couple 100 acres with this last year, so he'll have no problem running it. It's not very complicated. Of course, the minute I leave the field, Dad calls me with a planter issue that did not exist when I was running it. He said, this planter didn't plant the last round. I said, Dad, surely you could figure out what's causing that. Planted the first 40 acres for me just fine. The PTO shut off for some reason. I thought I had the out of the seat thing on, must not have. You would think he wouldn't have planted an entire round before realizing the planter wasn't planting, but maybe he was setting his radio stations or something. Oh, that's funny. If it looks like there's a rain moving in, Dad, that will plant in 14th gear if you wanted to. Not that I would know. I only plant below 8 miles an hour. Looks like the neighbor to the south waited a little bit to start planting at this field that we kind of mudded in a little bit ago. Probably a wise decision on his part. Looks nice now. Even this field looks a lot better after a few hours of drying. Told you that planter is like a tillage pass. I don't know if this counts as a rain to help seal the trenches or not. They don't look that great from up here. There's that rain we've been waiting on or anticipating. Dad radioed me. He said he just finished up. He's folded up, headed home. That's not great for our planting prospects the rest of the day. One field a day and we'll be done by June. The weather station is showing 1300s accumulated moisture so far, and it's still kind of trickling down. Since it was already too wet, that's going to pretty much guarantee that we're not going to be able to do any more field work today, if not tomorrow. It's just the nature of this spring. Get really close to being able to run hard, and then you get a rain that delays you. They're calling for more rain this weekend, and if we get a rain this weekend, it'll almost definitely be May before we're back in the fields. You never know what you're going to get in the spring. Sometimes they're easy, quick, early in April. And other times you're planning until late May trying to get things in. Let's just pray to God that we don't have to plant anything in June. Anyways, I'm going to take off for the day. As always, I greatly appreciate every single one of you continuing to tune in and support the channel. Your viewership means the world to me. I'll catch you all in the next episode. Until then, make sure you like the video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you want to see more, and comment down below if you have any questions. You know I love to talk about farming. Have a great day, everyone. Peace!